We don't like you. Before I read the book, actually really annoying in this book, uncomfortable to read. I sobbed. It feels a little bit. Everything could change. Start being interesting. I am not someone who typically reads a lot of series, and if you asked me to choose between only reading series for the rest of my life and only reading standalones, I would definitely pick standalones. However, with that being said, I am currently reading a few different series, and in today's video I'm going to be carrying on with 3 of them. The Crowns of Nyaxia series by Carissa Broadbent, the Me Before You series by Jojo Moyes, and the Harry Potter series by J.K. Rowling. Now I have actually started one already, and I started with the one that I was the most excited for, which was The Ashes and the Star-Cursed King. So this is book 2 in the Crowns of Nyaxia series, and I loved the first book, but I already can't really remember what happened, which is my issue with series most of the time. So I wanted to make this video to kind of push myself to carry on with these series, because I find I rate a book higher in a series the closer I read them together, because I still know what's going on. So like I said, I've already started this one. I've only read 63 pages so far, and I'm still needing a little more backstory than what they're giving, but I think it's going to come. I'm hoping so, because they keep making mentions to things, and I know that we followed in the first book Aurea, who's a human living in a vampire's world, and Rain, one of the vampires. And I know there was a games called the Kajari, which was made up of a series of life or death trials. And I can vaguely remember what happened at the very end, which was very important. And they keep making comments to it that I'm a little bit confused by. So I think it's blurred in my mind, because there's some parts that I feel I remember, and other parts I'm racking my brains and I'm not really sure what they're talking about. So there's obviously something that I've forgotten, but I think I know what it is. I don't know, maybe I'll do a bit of research, but I'm hoping in the next little while they will give a bit more about what happened, and it will start to make a bit more sense, and then start to move into the plot of this book, because I've read 63 pages. It's not really a lot out of a 726 page book. So there's a lot yet to come. I'm really excited to see where it goes, because I enjoyed the first book so much, and I really like Carissa Broadbent's writing. So I'm going to carry on reading, and I will check in with you in a little while. It's my birthday, and I've had a lovely day so far. It is nearing 5 o'clock and I'm about to settle down for some reading time. I'm almost halfway through, so I thought I'd give you a little halfway update. But honestly, I don't really feel like anything's happened yet in this book. And I still have another 380 or so pages of plot to go. So a lot could change, but I feel like there could have been a little bit more to it so far. That may be an unpopular opinion, I don't know, but I just feel like, I'm like, well, when's it gonna start being interesting? Everything could change. I'm open to that, and in fact hopeful of it, but so far it's fine. But it feels a little bit pointless. So yeah, that's where I'm at. I'm going to read a bit more now. It's wild to me that I'm 343 pages into a book and I'm not even halfway yet. Also, for my birthday, Ben got me The Priory of the Orange Tree by Samantha Shannon. 804 pages, that is. That's going to be the longest book I've ever read, if I read it, which I will. But that's by the by. Oh, that's what I was going to say. I think in April I read Six Scorched Roses, which is the optional novella in between book 1 and book 2. Oh, book 1's up there, whatever. This is book 2. So the optional novella in between. And at the time, having only read book 1 so far, I was like, yeah, this is definitely optional. Didn't recognise the characters, it was completely new characters. But I said,
I don't know if they will become more significant characters and more important in later books. And they have. So while I definitely still agree that book is optional, I do think it's worth reading because it just gives a little bit more background for when those characters come into this book. And I think what I'm about to read next, like literally the next chapter, they'll be even more important. But yeah, like I don't think it's necessary, but I think it's a good idea. But I also think, I may be wrong, so it's worth doing a bit more extra research on this, but I do think that you could read that before book 1, The Serpent and the Wings of Night. So maybe it'd be worth reading just that one if you wanted to get a feel for the series and for the writing before you fully dip your toe into the first long book. Just throwing that out there. But I really loved the first book. So I'm hoping that this one's gonna amp up a bit more for me and be a bit more exciting for the second half. Whoop! So I just read another about 40 pages and it got way more interesting in those past 40 pages since I said that, so. So I finished The Ashes and the Starkest King last night and honestly it was quite disappointing. I loved the first book so much and this just didn't match it for me. I don't know if it's because I left it too long to read it and I'd forgotten some stuff, or I just don't know, but it just didn't feel like there was anywhere near as much plot and like drama and tension. I remember I was reading the first book and I was literally sitting here going like, oh my god, ah, what, no way. And this one I was just reading it like, there was a few times where I was like, oh, ooh. But that was like the extent of my external displays of emotion towards the book, I guess. It just didn't feel the same. And I don't know if this was the case in the first book, but there were just so many random F words thrown in this. Like the characters just were swearing all the time and it just felt unnatural and unnecessary that it took me out of the story. But I don't know if the first book was like that and I just didn't seem to mind that time, or if it was different. It just did not match the energy for me at all, which is really sad because I really loved the first book and I was so excited to get to this one. But hey, but I did then move on to After You by Jojo Moyes. So this is the second book in the Me Before You series. I read the first book in February, I think. Having read it years and years before and also having watched the film several times throughout my teenage years, and I love that film, and surprise surprise, I loved the book. I really loved the book. I actually gave it 5 stars. It was one of my 3 5-star years. It was one of my 3 5-star reads of the year so far. I thought it was sensational, I think is the word I used repeatedly as I was reading it. And I've had this book for ages. I had them both together, but I've never read this one. The spine is perfectly intact. And as far as I'm aware, there's not a film version of this book. So the plot of this book is completely new to me. Sorry, there's a plane. I've read 30 pages so far, or 29 maybe, and it's pretty depressing so far, which based off the first book and how that ended makes a lot of sense. So if you don't know, the first book is a tragic romance between Lou and Will. So Louisa is, well, I'll start with Will actually. Will was really like outgoing, outdoorsy, athletic, adventurous man, and then became paralysed in an accident. And our story starts in Me Before You 2 years after that, when Lou gets hired as his new personal assistant. And so she's working for him, but they fall in love, and then, without wanting to say too much, it ends quite tragically. And this book is following Lou in the aftermath of that. I don't know if that was too much to say, but we'll go with it because I don't know how else to explain this. I haven't read the back. I accidentally saw a tiny bit of it and decided I don't want to see any more. But I'm guessing she's going to try and like turn her life around and find some positives again and find herself again. But I don't know. So we're going to see how this goes. But I think this is possibly going to be another tearjerker. We'll see. I sobbed reading Me Before You. I sobbed. There's definitely going to be potential for that in this book too. But we'll see how it goes. So I don't think I have given any updates so far, but I'm over halfway through now. I have read 255 pages out of 407 and I'm really enjoying this. I'm definitely not enjoying it as much as the first book, which I gave 5 stars, so I wasn't really expecting to enjoy this one as much as that. But I didn't know what to expect and I'm enjoying it. That's it. One character in particular, Bernard, who is Lou's dad, is really irritating me. He is so anti-feminism, it's uncomfortable to read. But I've just finished chapter 18 and everything so far has been from Lou's perspective, and then chapter 19 is about to be from someone else's perspective. So that's exciting and I'm very interested to see that side of things. So yeah, but I'm enjoying this. Like I said, I don't think this is the best writing ever, and I think the same with Me Before You. It's not the best writing I've ever read, but I really loved the plot and the connection from the last book. And I think I've said this before, but for me personally, having watched a film or like a screen adaptation before I read the book actually really helps me to enjoy the book more. So that probably helped with reading the first book. And then I don't think there's an adaptation of this one, but I can still picture the characters, so that's really nice, even if I've not seen this plot, so I don't know where this plot's going. And I still don't really know what's going to happen. There's just a few things are happening and I'm like, yeah. Oh, excuse me. I think this is probably quite likely to be a 4-star max, which is still really good if it is that. It could be up to a 4.25, maybe even a 4.5. But at this stage, I think it's more likely to be a 3.75 or a 4. But we'll see. There's still 150 pages to go, right? Yeah. So literally anything could happen. I do not like where this is going. Hello. I finished After You last night and it was not the same vibes as the first book, which I don't know how I feel about it. I think that, oh, the sun's coming out. With a few tweaks, I think this book, or maybe even without a few tweaks, it could be read as a standalone. Like, I think they give enough backstory for it to make sense. But I would have rated it so much lower because I think one of the only things this book had going for it for me was the fact that I already had a pre-existing connection with and love for the characters. Some of the characters in this were just so annoying. So Trina, Lou's sister, was really annoying in this book, and their dad, for some reason it stopped recording, but basically I was moaning and having a real rant about some of the characters, and I'm not going to do that again. But yeah, my main point was that the emotion, where in the Crimes of Nyaxia series I was saying that the second book, the plot and the drama didn't match up to the first book, in this book I think it was that the emotion didn't match up to the level of emotion I felt in the first book. Apart from one chapter, or maybe a couple in the middle, that were quite emotional, but still I was nowhere near crying, which is sad because I was literally sobbing in the first book. But anyway, I rambled on for way longer than that, but it's really not that big of a deal. So I have now started Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. I've literally read like 6 pages. I had a Google of the plot of the previous book, The Prisoner of Azkaban, because I wonder in The Crimes of Nyaxia if my problem was more that I'd forgotten a lot of what had happened in the series so far. So I've had a good Google of the synopsis of the previous book, and we will go from there. I realised I haven't given a single update about Harry Potter yet, and I'm now 170 pages in, which, oh sorry, give me a little knock. I'm now 170 pages in, which isn't really that many considering the length of the book is 636. Yeah, it is taking me a bit longer than I'd hoped, but I'm definitely enjoying it more than I've enjoyed any of the other Harry Potters so far, which is good news. This is the 4th book in the series, and I think I enjoyed the 3rd one the most so far. I think they've like got better each time for me. But yeah, like I said, at the moment this is my favourite so far. I don't really have much more to say about the story. The only kind of thing I do have to say is that sometimes I feel like the characteristics of the characters are a bit overdone. So like Hermione is a bookworm and a nerd, and I just feel like that's so exaggerated. Like I feel like every single time she's spoken about, it makes reference to the fact that she's got her head in a book or something. And same with Neville being so forgetful. Like, we get it. And I almost feel like if your writing is good enough for your readers to remember your character's traits, then you don't need to remind them all the time. It just feels so exaggerated. But then I guess this was intended as a YA book, so maybe that makes a bit more sense. I don't know, it's just something that's crossed my mind. But like I say, I am enjoying so far. Through, and I am really enjoying this one. It's definitely my favourite of the series so far, and it's making me really excited to finish the series and watch the films. Yeah, it's exciting, it's intense, I'm really enjoying it. Woo! But I've read 320 pages out of 636. I'm reading at a rate of 44 pages per hour, which means I've still got over 7 hours left, which feels like so many. I would love to read 100 pages today, just because I'm not working and I don't really have anything else I'm planning to do today. So it would be nice to make a bit more progress today than I have on other days recently. But yeah, like I said, I'm really enjoying it. Ugh, Rita Skeeter, we don't like you. You know when there's some characters who you don't like because they're not nice, but they're a really good character, and then there's others who are just really annoying? That's who Rita Skeeter is for me. I just don't want her to exist. Whereas others like Draco Malfoy and Snape are obviously not very nice, but they make for a good story. But I don't feel like I'm getting that from Rita Skeeter, I'm just getting annoyed. Classic me, I forgot to say anything whatsoever about this book after I finished it 10 days ago. But yes, I did finish this book, and everything that I've said so far remains true. I really enjoyed this one. I definitely think it was my favourite Harry Potter so far, and probably the best so far. A lot of people have said to me, like on Instagram and in person, who knew I was reading this, that this is their favourite or one of their favourites, which makes me kind of nervous, because am I like, is the whole series going to go downhill from here then? But I'm hoping that's not going to be the case. I'm hoping it's going to continue to be a really lovely time. But even if they kind of plateau, that's still going to be enjoyable because I did end up rating this 4 stars. I really liked it. I thought there was a lot of tension, a lot of drama. The plot was really good. I don't know why J.K. Rowling is so obsessed with describing people's noses. I feel like every single time a character got introduced, she had to tell us what their nose looked like. And I don't really understand that. But that's by the by. Yeah, on the whole though, really liked this one. And like I said, everything else I've said is true. So there's no need for me to repeat that. The only thing I'm not sure is, I don't know if I want to watch the first 1 or 2 films now before continuing with the series, or if I want to read the rest of the books first. Because I know there'll be some discrepancies between the two, but I do think it will help me keep up with what's gone on so far and who everyone is, what they look like, what their scenes and settings look like. So I don't know. I just think there were a few things that happened in this that I had to text my friends and be like, can you remind me who this character is? Can you remind me what they're talking about when they say this? And I think if I'd watched the films, I would be able to see it more clearly in my mind, so that might help. But as yet undecided. On the whole, a lovely time. And I think it's funny because this was definitely the book I was the least excited for out of the 3 that I've read in this video. But it is absolutely the one I've enjoyed the most. But that's just the way that it goes sometimes. So like I said, I ended up rating this one 4 stars and the other 2 I rated 3.75 each. And now I've moved on to other things. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for being here, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.